Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
Knowledge for Men is now doing live men's retreats in San Diego, California. Imagine 3 days of intense personal development training with 10 other like-minded men all pursuing greatness in life, business, and their relationships. You are not alone on this journey. Come to San Diego and experience The Awakening, a real cutthroat program designed to give you the tools you need to go from where you are now to where you want to be. There are only 10 spots and it's filling up quickly, so go to kfmretreat.com to learn more and apply for the program. Again, that's kfmretreat.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Cole Hatter. He's an author, investor, award-winning speaker, and entrepreneur. He's passionate about truly living life, creating massive financial success for himself and others, and most importantly, giving back. All right, guys, let's just dive in right here. Cole, happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Andrew, man. This is exciting.
All right, cool. So let's dive in with a success quote, a favorite success quote, a saying, something that you've lived by that's just helped you on your journey. What do you got for us?
Yeah, it's the one I share all the time, man. I love it. It's really on theme for the message of your show. It's by an author named John C. Maxwell. He's a best-selling author, has written dozens of books, and one of his favorites for me is Thinking for a Change. And in that book, as I was reading it, a quote jumped out of the page and punched me in the face, and it says, "The truth is, you can spend your life any way you want, but you can only spend it once." And I think it creates a great perspective on what we value, what we spend our time in, how we identify ourselves, etc. I mean, it's an all-encompassing great life quote for me.
Yeah. So I see that you're helping men and women to be more alive and to be the best versions of themselves and really make an impact in their lives. Like, was it always like this? Like, did you graduate college and just like, you know what, we'll make a difference? Like, how did you dive into this? Like, share with us your story of how you got started with all this.
Sure. So never graduated college at all, actually.
All right.
Yeah.
There we go.
So I wanted to help people early on in life. About junior high is when we first, 13, 14-year-olds start saying, okay, obviously I don't need to pick my career path yet, but at least the direction I want to go. And just the way I was raised, the family I grew up in, I knew that I wanted to do something where I was helping people at some degree, right? That the effort I was putting in, I could see a tangible and measurable difference in other people's lives. It was just kind of wired in my DNA. And so I looked at being a doctor. I looked at joining our military, right? What better way to give back than to serve our country?
Right.
And police officers, I ended up being a firefighter. So in high school, before I graduated, in the evening classes, ROP classes they call them, I started taking like EMT and all that stuff to get ready. Graduated high school, went right into my fire academy, and took a lot of classes. Never got a quote-unquote degree, but did everything I needed to do to get my fire certificates, to go to paramedic school and all that stuff. So did that, was living my dream. Actually moved from Southern California, where we both reside, to up into Seattle, Washington, where, like I said, I was living my dream, and I knew that I had my entire life figured out, that at 19 years old when I started, I'd put in my 30 years. I'd retire by 50, and I'd spend my 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond on Easy Street, retired, pension, benefits, you know the deal. That was my plan. 2 years into that plan, I actually got in a car accident myself, which put me in a wheelchair for a while. I was blind in one eye for a while. Had a pretty traumatic brain injury and a few other things that put me on the sideline for about a year. And so thank God as of today, I'm 100% healthy. But that first year or so after the accident, there's actually 2 accidents 2 months apart. We were uncertain what my future would look like, whether I'd have 100% recovery or not. And so I found the need of needing to be able to provide for myself. And that's how I entered the world of entrepreneurship, of saying, well, whatever happens to me, whatever my future is, I need to be able to pay my bills. So I started getting good, or started learning, I guess, I can't say I was ever good at it, but in the beginning, learning how to make money on my own and be independent. And between hard work and timing, I had some pretty quick success. and just took that momentum into the recession where I got my butt kicked, lost everything, and then had to reevaluate and started again fresh in 2011, and am on top now, better than I've ever been. So that was kind of it. And then along the way, I've had a really lot of life lessons. People say, Cole, from 20 to 30, you've lived 10 lives. And it's kind of true. Having almost died twice, right? And just all the stuff I've gone through in that decade of extreme blessing and extreme loss together, it's given me an interesting perspective, and I just love to share that message with others. And there was never a moment, back to your question, I didn't graduate and all of a sudden the light switched. It was just kind of an evolution of life experience, of what I've gone through and what my interpretation of those life experiences meant, what I allowed them to mean to me, and how I've worked through what some people say, is something that would ruin people's lives, going through several of those and making it a better than a worse. I just share that message with the world.
Yeah. So here you are, 19, firefighter in Seattle, got it figured out, and you get into a car accident. And then you said there was a second accident. Was that also involving a car?
That one was a dirt bike. So,
okay.
September 10th, I was in a car accident. Put me in a wheelchair, as you know. 2 months later, I had just gotten out of my wheelchair onto crutches, and a best friend of mine that was actually in the accident with me, we survived it together, saw how depressed I was, and said, let's go out and ride dirt bikes. Obviously, I still I couldn't really walk yet, but the idea was, we would go, it was more camping and just bringing the bikes, but be mellow, because obviously I could sit pretty well. I'd been sitting in a wheelchair for months, so he's like, I'll help you sit on your bike, we'll just go real slow, and he and I fell into a mine shaft. So I still couldn't walk, unassisted, and fell into a mine shaft, and on my way in, was able to reach out and hold onto a bush and just hang there by one arm for my, for dear life, and was able to climb up. And then our third buddy that was riding with us saw me and grabbed me by my armpits and pulled me out. So those two accidents, so the car accident was September 10th and the mine shaft was November 14th, literally 64 days later. So
just not having an easy go. Tough year for Cole. But coming out of those, it put you in a position where getting a physical, you couldn't return to your job basically as a firefighter, and these other jobs you're looking at were still physically demanding. So it forced you to make do with what you could, which was probably get online. It sounded like you said you started trying to make money for yourself. Was this an online kind of adventure that you're going into?
No, yeah. So more of those stories. I was in the car accident. Matt and I survived. Our best friend Steve didn't. And in the mine shaft accident, that was Matt again. So Matt and I back out together. Matt fell in and did not survive either. So in both those accidents, not only was I physically broken, literally, but dude, I was emotionally devastated that my two best friends in the world, I was in both accidents with them, and neither of them survived. I was the only survivor. So it put me in this place of just being really screwed up emotionally and going through a lot personally. And once I started coming back the other side of it, so I had to live with my parents for a while because I was that hurt from my car accident. I had to, up in Seattle, living on my own, firefighting, got so hurt, I had to move back in with mom and dad. It was bad. I had to be carried and hand fed and stuff. And so while I'm still living with mom and dad at 21 now, the next door neighbors were a real estate team. The husband was a real estate broker and the wife was a real estate agent. And together they were doing very well in real estate. And I said, you know what? I'm trying to find the meaning and the purpose of all of this that I've gone through. And I obviously want to be in a career where I'm making a difference in other people's lives. So doing real estate on the side will be a good avenue to create some income while I'm on this journey, while I'm on this search. And that ended up turning into a career for me. Again, we can talk as much about this career as you want, but at the beginning, I was in the right place at the right time. It was 2005 in Southern California. I would just buy a house, count to 10, and sell it for a massive profit. So I decided not to be a realtor. I wanted to be an investor. So I went out there, started buying, fixing, selling houses, and asked my dad to join me to be my business partner because I had no idea what I was doing, and he comes from the corporate background. He joined in as well. And together we were literally crushing it. I was 23 when I had my first six-figure month because, again, in Southern California in 2005, 6, and 7, it was easy to make money in real estate. You didn't have to even know what you were doing. 2007 turned 10 in 2008. We had a recession. Real estate imploded, and I all of a sudden had to learn how to be an entrepreneur, which was one of the most painful times in business, but one of the best now in hindsight, right? One of the best moments ever because I had to learn how to actually make money, not just be in the right place at the right time. But so anyway, real estate was almost accidental, and it introduced me to the world of investing, which I still do to this day. I still invest in real estate and always will. but I've diversified now where I do a lot of angel investing and invest in huge funds, startups, etc. So real estate, it was not online. To answer your question, it was actual real estate. It was brick and mortar, buying houses, fixing them and selling them, just because that's what my next door neighbors were involved in. And I saw that they were living in $1 million home, had beautiful cars, and said, well, even if I do this part-time, I'll make enough money to get by till I can figure out what it is I want to do. And I'm still here. I am 10 years later still doing it because it's not my passion, but it's my vehicle. It gives me the financial freedom and the time freedom to do what I am passionate about. And, you know, I'm envious of people I see out there that generate money through doing what their life's greatest passions are. My probably greatest passion is surfing, and unfortunately, I'm not better than Kelly Slater, so no one's paying me money for that. But what I have found is to do meaningful work that I greatly enjoy, which gives me the time freedom and financial freedom to do those things that I am most passionate about, which cost money, right? I'm passionate about my nonprofit, and the thing about nonprofits is they're non-profitable. So I need to be able to generate income in the things that I enjoy doing and find value in doing, to then take those profits into things that I'm passionate about to live a purpose-driven life. And so, you know, that's kind of what I've been doing here now 10 years later. And as far as business is concerned, things are the best they've ever been. And it's an exciting season of life for sure.
Yeah. I could see the amount of growth, the amount of passion and purpose, like the trajectory that you're on right now. And 2 accidents, and then starting a business, and then the market's crashing in 2008, just that recession. Well, what would you say you've learned? You said you've lived 10 lives in 10 years. It's like, what would you say you've learned in those? Those are some, like 19 years old, going through those accidents, and then business crashing and having to start from scratch again. Like, those are massive things that happen in a pretty short period of time. Like, what would you say you pulled away from that? Especially for that age too. It's like, whoa. I'm wondering if this is putting you on this trajectory of really living a life of impact and really trying to give back and living this life of freedom. Like,
totally.
That's what I'm getting from this, but go ahead.
So yeah, you nailed it. And again, losing friends sucks. Being in the accidents with them is, I think, for me, harder, because then I had guilt as well as grief. So, you know, having to survive them and them not being there, going to their funerals. And anyway, it was a bad season. And like I said, that was at 21 when those accidents happened. And then at 25, a few other things happened. And so it's a funny story. I actually moved. I was in such a bad spot when my business had crashed. And actually, I was dating a girl who broke up with me on Cinco de Mayo, which for any Americans listening to this, you know, how un-American is it to break up with me on a Mexican holiday, right? And so I literally moved to Mexico. I left for 7 months and went and worked full-time with a nonprofit. My businesses were no longer sustaining me. And so I said, screw it. I'm going to take what savings I have and just move away, surf, eat tacos, and give back. And that's when I started really evaluating life and getting clear. And, you know, kind of what you were alluding to there is these huge life-changing experiences that I had many in that decade.
Right.
Just gave me a different perspective on life. And, you know, what I found is, and this is where I get up on my bandwagon, but I think this speaks to your message and to your audience, is I feel like the world lies to us without us even knowing it. It's propagated through media, through movies, through different publications, and what we as a society hold value in. And what we're really told to do, at least what I was told to do growing up, is to try to be as successful as you can, make a little bit more money every year than you did the year previous, buy more stuff, nicer cars than you had before, bigger homes than you had before. You know, try to join some type of a social club where, based on your status, you can impress others. Put your kids through the best college money can buy, and 70, 80, 90 years later, you know, look back on your successes and call it a decent life. And I think those things are important, obviously, right? Put your kids through great education, etc. But that's a sad life, that if you really think, regardless of your religious beliefs, right? I'm not talking about like, what is the purpose of humanity? I have strong beliefs around that. But I always talk about one level down. Regardless of why you think we're here as human beings, we're here. Let's just agree on that. So then what do you think your purpose should be, or how you should occupy the time you have? And what the world has told us is we'll occupy that time by striving to buy yourself more stuff. And I think it's total crap that we as a culture have bought into this belief that we're all just supposed to tiptoe to our graves and arrive safely without ever being noticed or mattering to anyone. And I think it's, all those things are important. Strive for, you know, to be more successful, but not to see what you can do for yourself. More importantly, to see what type of significant impact you can make in the world. And we are wired to want to feel important. Like everything, Andrew, everything we do as people is wanting some type of validation, not even if that's the primary motive, but that's what makes us work. Like as an athlete, getting a smack on the button, and that a boy, or awards. Like why do we have award shows, right? It's that recognition that we're searching for. And there is no recognition in being a consumer of working hard to just buy yourself stuff. There is recognition and validation in leveraging your resources for others. That doesn't necessarily mean just writing checks. I'm not suggesting that everyone goes and works and gives all their money away. If you can, right on. It's what Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and all those guys do. But what resources do you have? Like for you, Andrew, you have a podcast. You have an active community of men whose lives you're impacting by bringing guests on to plant seeds in their mind. So, and for you, you've even been able to create, I would imagine, profit streams from that. But outside of writing checks, you're in a position of influence. So that's a resource you have, is being able to be influential and put positive messaging into other young men, through even adult men's minds, to try to mold them to ask the question, am I doing what I was built to do? And so going through what I went through and having several touches with death, it made me evaluate why I was doing what I was doing and what the greater reason was, and saying, is this really the mark I wanted to make in this world with the time that I had? And here's the best way to explain it to people. Imagine that you have a pain on your side, and you feel like it's a side ache or whatever it is, maybe indigestion, yet it just doesn't go away. So you finally go to the doctor and say, what the heck? My side hurts, it never goes away. And you find out you have pancreatic cancer and 1 year left to live. What are you going to do? Well, all the songs and movies, you go jump out of airplanes and all that stuff. But outside of having fun, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to try to make that time matter as much as you possibly can with the time you have left. And having died a couple of times, I don't jump out of airplanes every day, right? It's like, if you knew you were dying, how would you live? I don't do that stuff. But I make sure that the effort and the energy I'm spending are in things that actually in my measurement matter. And, that's the aha moment I've had is, hey, we've got to pay our bills, so go work hard. Hey, I'm living in my dream home, and every car I've ever wanted to own is either on my driveway or in my garages. So I do enjoy life. I do make money, and I do, I strive for monetary gain, but that's not what it's all about. There's a bigger and deeper meaning that I found through almost dying, and that, I try to help others find as well. And it sounds like that's what you do with Knowledge for Men also.
Yeah. Absolutely. Being able to focus on creating versus consumption is what I'm pulling from this. And then your creation is your passion. Like what is it that you really want to do? Like what is it that speaks to you, and being able to focus on that. This is going to sound so minor, what I'm going to share with you. It's so minor, but just recently did it, just say in the last month or so. It's simple. It's just on my phone. I just deleted Facebook and Instagram, and I cut the cable. And it's so simple. Like, it's just like, oh, is this it? But what it's forced me to do, and even on my computer, I have this app so it blocks Facebook. So I could use it for business and marketing. I could use ads and stuff like that, but I can't see the Facebook newsfeed. But for me, it was, it's not just that you waste time on these social media sites. It's that you're just looking at pointless shit.
Totally, for hours.
And it's really just negative influence on your mind. Like, everyone's trying to get your attention if it's a business, and then if it's a person, they want more significance. And so you're looking at someone, you're looking at these girls, you're looking at these friends, you're looking at these, everyone just seems to be traveling on Instagram, and like, you're trying to focus on your thing, you're trying to like build your thing. And so when I just like got rid of those things, and I kept saying, it's for business, I need to be up to date on this stuff, but I just got rid of it. And I feel like it's like 2002. Like, I just go online, I work, and then I read a book, and it's so simple, but my productivity levels have just soared, and it's allowed me to really get some of my best work out. I'm working on some really big projects right now, but what's your take on some of that stuff?
Yeah, I think that's important, and that's like an emerging theme. Like, social media is Princey had that spoken word video, the anti-social media, right? And so, it's an interesting conversation. Social media is what you make out of it. I've done that, but I call it like social media fasting, where you just opt out for a while. But like you, I also leverage social media for business, for promotion, etc.
Right.
And, my thought are, outside of even social media, there's a lot of distractions. For other people, it can be TV, it could be whatever. And, I work hard. I know you do as well. And there are times where I just need to veg and unplug and just be totally detached. And that's different than wasting time just sitting around browsing, like you said, news feeds, which, again, in a pre-election year, your news feed sounds like it's been turned off since the beginning of the month now, but all I see is Trump this and Hillary that and blah. It's just freaking nightmares, right? So it's like... I think that you just need to filter your time and filter the content. There's an awesome thing I share when I'm speaking on stages, that your mind is fertile soil. Whatever you plant will grow, period. And it's very an abstract thought, but just think about this for a second. With real ground, with real dirt, real seeds and soil, there are seasons. You need to cultivate. You need to harvest your crops. But with your brain, it doesn't care what seed, what season, or how you treat it. Whatever you put in your mind will grow. And so if you're feeding it with negativity, if you're feeding it with being idle and just wasting time, those seeds will manifest, will grow and become your reality, where you become jaded. And you've got to screen, like I said, what's coming into your brain. You could choose other seeds, though, of listening to podcasts like this. Like someone right now who's listening to this episode and listens to all your episodes had the option of browsing Facebook and reading what Donald Trump's doing now, or how Hillary's this or whatever, and just getting angry with how the media propagates things, division towards political parties, which it's like, hey, I thought we're all American. Why are there like two distinct groups now? And it's divisive. It's nonsense. Shield your mind from that stuff. So if it means to completely cut it off like you're doing, Andrew, right on. If it means that you need to start unfollowing friends or whatever that are the ones that are just super negative, cool, do that. I've also seen a lot of good in social media. I'm a godfather to a little boy who lives in Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska, which is forever. It's like a whole nother world from here. So my real only connection to him and his family is through social media, and I think that's a real positive thing. So you've just got to be an adult and realize that you are the only one that determines what you put in. There's no one, like when you're a kid growing up, mom and dad say you're not allowed to buy that CD. You're not allowed to watch that movie. You have a filter system. They say, hey, this is bad for you. Don't do it. But then when we become adults, we just all of a sudden, I'll just anything, right? And you got to be careful what you're putting in your brain. So what are my thoughts on what you said, Andrew? I think that whether it's completely cutting it cold turkey, or whether it's cutting out the negativity, or whatever works for the individual, just realize that what you're putting in your brain, what you're putting into your heart impacts you. It molds you. It creates you. And I heard Tony Robbins share this one time. He says that if you want to cook a frog, you can't throw a frog into boiling water. It will jump out. The way you cook a frog is you put it into room temperature water and then turn the heat on, and the frog doesn't notice that it's getting hotter, and then it's all of a sudden cooked. And he says that when you surround yourself with people or any influence that's negative or whatever it is, you don't even notice it at first. As your degrees and your temperatures start rising, as you start absorbing it, until all of a sudden you're cooked. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize who you are anymore, because you're starting to talk like other people. You're starting to think and be negative or jaded or divisive or be prejudiced towards certain demographics, where a year or 3 or 5 earlier you weren't, but it's because 1 degree at a time you didn't notice who you were becoming. And so I thought that that's a great analogy that Tony shared, and it's something to consider, that what are you putting in? And you might even not notice the way that you're being persuaded, or your mindset towards people or whatever it is whoever it is, are changing. Be careful and shield your mind. So I agree with what you're doing.
Absolutely. And not only just with social media, but even in real life, you have this one quote here, so cliche, but we've all heard it. You are the average of the 5 people you must surround yourself with, by Jim Rohn. It just shaped my entire life. I look back, I'm like, it's so true. How has that philosophy played a role on your journey from kind of starting into business to where you are now?
Well, it's totally true. Jim Rohn has said it, like you said, it's been quoted 1 million times. Our moms said it first, that when they say ducks hang with ducks, right, or whatever, it's true. You become who you surround yourself with. And so that's like an in-person example of what we were just talking about. For me, I can look back at the seasons of my life in my youth when I was getting in trouble or whatever it was, and it's totally the influence of the people I surrounded myself with. And when it comes to success, that's one of the things I teach. Success leaves clues. And like Gary Vaynerchuk, a friend of mine who was on your podcast a few episodes ago, he talks about, and I think it's pretty profound. He says that I'm not as talented as other people are. He says I'm not as gifted as other people are. His advantage is that he just works harder than other people do. And what's interesting is regardless of how talented we are, regardless of what skill sets we're born with or not, success really does leave clues. Success really can be duplicated. So you need to be surrounding yourself with people who are living the lives and succeeding in the industries you want to succeed in. Being around successful people is super motivational, right? Like, Bill Gates, for instance. If I ever got a chance to go play golf and hang out with him, man, that would be huge. But I'm not in the software tech industry. I'm in a totally different world. So surrounding yourself with people who are where you want to be in the industry that you're in is just like a life hack. It's just a straight up shortcut. And the reason at 21 years old with no business or real estate background at all, I created a business that was generating me 6 figures in a month within my first 2 years of doing it. It's not because I'm some prodigy. It's not because I'm smart, some whiz kid. It's because I started following multi-millionaire real estate investors and just copying them. I say I'm the best copycat I know because I'm really great at finding people who are successful and ripping them off. Like, period, right? I always say it's important to do good old-fashioned R&D, not research and development. I say rip off and duplicate, period. And, obviously not plagiarizing, but there's only certain right ways to do business. And if you find someone who's doing it right, and then they're not a total dick, right? There's someone who you respect both professionally and personally, do what they're doing and you won't have identical results, but you'll have similar results, period. You might not have the same skill set or work ethic that they do, but if I do exactly what they're doing, inevitably I'll have similar results, even if it takes me longer. And so I have made it a career designed to be consistently surrounding myself with, whether it be paid mentorships or someone like Tony Robbins, who has no idea I'm alive, but I've consumed all of his content, to be surrounding myself with people like that who are leaving these absolute gold mines of knowledge that are, adaptable to who you are. If Bill Gates gave a talk on how to start a tech company, that might not be something I can adapt into my business. But when he talks about managing employees, of growing a company, that is something I can take and apply to my business. So finding people, listening to what they've done to succeed and implementing in my own business is important. And those 5, like Jim Rohn said, people that you surround yourself with will make or break your business, period. So it's just a matter of finding those people you respect both professionally and personally who are where you want to be and getting time around them, period.
Yeah, there's that quote by Pablo Picasso: good artists copy, great artists steal. And
I like that. I've heard that once before. And that's beautiful.
It's from Picasso right there. So yeah, let's dive into the knowledge round. Let's take this a few levels deeper. Are you ready, Cole?
Yeah.
Someday I'll go after my dreams. Someday I'll take action. Wouldn't the world be a better place if we were all inspired? If the world wasn't full of uninspiring people? We're all taught that life is tough. Life is hard. But the awful truth is that life is easy. It's pretty easy to live and do just enough. But truly living, chasing your dreams is hard. What are you dying to do? What is it that lights a fire in your heart? Don't wait till someday to answer this question. There is nothing more important than figuring that out. We're all dying, but if you're not chasing your dream, then you're already dead. Guys, go to kfmretreat.com to apply for my retreat that will change everything. Go to kfmretreat.com to apply and be part of a program that will be a catalyst for redefining your life. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. All right, and the first question I have for you is, what advice would you give to someone who is feeling lost or unsure of their purpose, of what it is that they should do?
So here's what I know. Waking up one morning and just having the light bulb hit that you've figured out your life purpose. I've heard that happens to some people. It didn't happen to me. What I would tell people who are feeling lost, unsure of their purpose, is just keep moving forward, and your life events and circumstances, skill sets, and network or people you surround yourself with will kind of mold it. Like for me, at 19, my life purpose was going to be firefighting. I was going to help the people who lived in the city that was within my jurisdiction and give back in that way. By 21, that changed. And I had survived a couple of accidents, life circumstances. And again, we already went through those details, got into real estate, and my whole life purpose has changed now. Now my life purpose is to have the conversation that we've been having, showing people that life was meant to matter and not be meant to just exist, right? You hear those a million ways, don't just live, be alive, and all that stuff. But I really believe that. I also believe that it takes money to make a bigger impact. Like you can go to church and volunteer and help cars park, and that's very helpful. But what if you make an extra $1 million a year you don't need? Well, that will probably allow you to make a bigger impact. So it's all about, for me, connecting money with action. But what I would tell someone who's feeling lost, unsure of their purpose, and trying to figure it out as they go, just keep moving forward. You cannot steer a parked car. If you are at a red light, you can turn the wheel to the left, you can turn the wheel to the right, you're not going anywhere. As soon as the car starts moving forward, now as you turn left or right, you'll all of a sudden start going in a direction. And so the faith is taking your foot off the brake. Regardless if you don't know where the destination is yet, you'll go nowhere by sitting around doing nothing. Start moving forward. Start doing things that you believe in. And through life circumstances, all of a sudden your quote unquote purpose will be revealed to you. Again, I know some people that just bing, all of a sudden had their moment. It didn't happen like that for me. It was a result of saying, holy crap, I've almost died a couple of times. Like life has quote unquote punched me in the face. What am I going to do about it? And then that's how I kind of created my purpose. So that would be the advice is don't expect it to just click, but move forward and it will be quote unquote revealed to you as you're taking action moving forward.
Don't expect it to click. Just keep moving forward. I like that. And now what was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
I think it's back to what we talked about earlier. I think that society and culture has created norms of, like who can finish this sentence, right? Go to school, get good grades, graduate, and get a, fill in the blank is, job. Like we've all been taught to think and act the same way. And I think the ones that you read about, that you hear about, that made a difference, the Martin Luther Kings, the Picassos, they're the ones that just did basically the exact opposite of what everyone else was doing. And that's become a huge theme these last 2 years. When someone first shared that idea with me and kind of pointed out that everyone believes and acts the exact same way as part of just growing in this world that we live in. It's not even a bad thing necessarily. But we're all taught to think, act, and believe the same way. And the ones that just shake it up, that make a difference, like Steve Jobs and he's talking about we are the round pegs in the square holes. Like you see this constant theme of the ones that are shaking and changing the world, doing basically the exact opposite of everyone else. So one of the things that was holding me back from becoming the man I am today was just going with the flow, was just doing what everyone else did. Not that it's bad, but not asking questions or doing things differently until finally I said, you know what? I don't want what everyone else is getting, so I'm not going to do what everyone else is doing. And I started doing things differently. And that's where, even still, let's be honest, I'm not the man I want to be. I don't know that I ever will be. I'm a husband and a father, and I'm not a perfect husband or father, but that is a daily goal that I set to try to be a better husband and father than I was the day before. Same is true with entrepreneurship. I do stupid things in business still, where I look at myself and I say, you freaking idiot, what were you thinking? But my goal is to become a better entrepreneur every day as well. So I think the biggest thing that held me back was just following the flow. Was just doing what everyone else was doing and not asking questions, not challenging it, not doing something different or new.
Yeah. I hate to just be dropping quotes left and right here, but there's this quote by Mark Twain. I was just reading one of his books, and he says, whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. And I find that so true. Whenever you're just agreeing with everyone, doing everything the way it should be, just as societal norms, you're going to get average, mediocre results every time.
Dude, let's just use metrics for a second. The Department of Health and Human Services, I know your audience is all over the world, but for those that are in America, our own government, the Department of Health and Human Services, statistically shows that 93% of Americans don't ever retire. When they're in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, they either work until they die or require someone like their children or brothers and sisters to care for them. That is a pathetic statistic, but it is fact. Google it. It shows the metrics. So here's the deal. If you do what everyone else is doing, you will get what everyone else is getting. And the facts, the numbers show that 93% will not retire. Only 7% of Americans today stop working and live the life that they had lived while they were still actively employed. Now, I know for some of us, we'll never retire, right? But we want to shift from having to generate active income to working on things that most resonate deepest and matter with us. Well, if you do what everyone else is doing, you will seriously be greeting us at Walmart in your 70s, period. Because that's who greets you at Walmart. Walk into a Walmart, who's greeting you? Grandma or grandpa. And that's not to judge them or say that they're bad people. They just did what everyone else is doing and they got what everyone else got. So for me, screw that. Whether you believe Mark Twain's quote, which I love that quote, by the way, so keep throwing them out there.
Yeah,
or
I got
whether
more.
you think I'm a complete idiot or not, just take a second, look at the metrics and say, okay, if I do what everyone else is doing, I'm going to get what everyone else is getting. And just from the Department of Health and Human Services, 93% of Americans will not retire. They will work or require assistance in their retirement. Screw that. I want to do what the 7% are doing, which is the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. And when you say that, it almost like strikes me, because when you say it, it's like, how could that be? Like, if you were living in a third world country and you heard that statistic, you would be like, how is that possible? America, one of the freest countries in the world with the most opportunity, abundance of wealth. Like, opportunity is just endless, especially nowadays with just on the internet and information and all the books, like how many resources are available. It's like, how could you let that happen? How could you be a part of that 93% when we have so much opportunity? My family, I've come from a family of teachers, and they'll ask that question to students, what does freedom mean to you? And it's like, oh, they say the cliche response. But actually, what does freedom mean to you? Really, like, we have this incredible opportunity, and what are you going to do with that freedom?
Totally.
That statistic I didn't know that. I knew it was going to be something ridiculous, but 93%, just like, how could that be? There's just too much opportunity.
The conversation we're having right now, though, is becoming more prevalent, right? You and I aren't the only ones that are feeling this way. I think really our generation is looking at our parents and our grandparents and saying, I don't want to repeat the cycle. And I feel like there's more, and there's more reason now. Tuition. The cost of education has increased at 4 times the rate of healthcare. We in America have more student loan debt than credit card debt and auto debt combined. And so what's happening more and more frequently now are men and women our age are graduating with $100,000, $200,000 worth of student loan debt. They essentially have a mortgage without a house. And then they go to get a job and either can't get hired or get paid so little that they will never get out of the student loan. The average student loan debt repayment in America is 44 years old. That means they literally spend decades in debt paying for the education that someone said they needed. Now, I'm not saying education's no good. That's not at all what I'm saying. If you're not educated, you're freaking screwed.
Right.
But I think our generation are the first to say, okay, is just a traditional education of going to school and getting a quote unquote degree going to get me where I want to be? Now, I don't knock people who have degrees or several, right? Because here I am, the guy that doesn't have one. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying we as a generation are starting to say, maybe more actionable or life skill principle type education, money generating education might be more important now than it's ever been. School, like the education system we have, definitely needs a massive update. And this conversation is growing and growing and growing. Like, I don't have a degree, but I make 7 figures a year. Isn't that interesting that, my scholars who are making $50,000 a year are telling me what I should do when I make that in a weekend? And so, the reality is we are starting to see this conversation grow where individuals are saying, hey, I respect education. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, great-grandpa, they all went to college and got the degrees. And that's traditionally, it's I guess implied that it's supposed to happen to be successful. But you see more and more of the Steve Jobs out there who quit college and go off to start Apple. And, we're hungry for the knowledge that it's going to take to teach us to make money and not necessarily what it takes to get that diploma. And, it's important. It's important that people know that education's important, but educate yourself in a way that matters. Now let's go to doctors. Well, you're not just going to watch a bunch of ER and go and start doing surgery on people. That does require the more traditional education. So colleges are great in their place. But I have a problem with the conversation around everybody needs to go to college to succeed. You must have a degree to make it. I disagree with that. I think specialties like being a surgeon, dentist, things like that absolutely need to go to medical school. You freaking save lives by doing that, right? Duh, absolutely. But to say that I need to sit through 4 years of degree to get a whatever, or 4 years of college to get a degree to then finally have a chance of making money, I do disagree with. So anyway, coming from a background of educators yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's been tough.
I'm sure that you hear this a lot, and it's a question people need to ask themselves. Is knowing the Pythagorean theorem and being able to figure out the obtuse side of a triangle really going to help you get where you want to be financially? If you're going to be an engineer, yes, then go to school and go get your degree as an engineer. If you want to be an entrepreneur, maybe not. Maybe you should just start following multi-millionaire entrepreneurs that show you how they make millions of dollars. And then, like Picasso says, you steal what they're doing in a legal way. And by the way, that's a tough word. And I say rip off.
It is, yeah.
But this is business, right? Like, that's normal. And I mentor people so they can do what I'm doing. Like, this is okay. It's not plagiarism. It's taking a business model, adapting it, and then molding it to be unique for you and growing it. So as an entrepreneur, or as someone who wants to be self-sustaining financially, it might make more sense to just find people who are completely financially free and just doing what they do instead. And that's what I've done, and it's worked out for me.
Yeah. And so that's one aspect of it. And I'm wondering also what's on your bookshelf. I'm wondering, what would you say have been 2 or 3 of the most influential books that you've read?
It's really interesting. So I have gnarly ADHD, and they gave me all the pills and all that stuff. I finally stopped taking them in high school because I disagreed with them and haven't since. And I've had to relearn how to learn, right? And anybody who doesn't pay attention in class gets automatically labeled ADHD, but I actually really have it. And so I struggled because I would read textbooks to pass, tests, etc. I would read the entire page, word for word on the page, get to the bottom and have no idea what I just read because I was thinking about surfing or wakeboarding the whole time. And it's not like I was just staring off I literally read the page, but it wasn't processing because my mind was thinking other things, right? So it's only recently in my adult life that I have like this hunger for reading, because I'm actually picking books that actually teach me things I need to know, that I can then put the book down, use it in that moment, and benefit from it. Mm-hmm. So I've become an avid reader now because I found that it's not that I'm illiterate and don't know how to read. It's that I've been forced to read things that I just didn't care about and didn't have the discipline to read things that I just didn't interest me. So to answer your question, what's on your bookshelf? I'm staring at them right now.
I was going to say, I can tell you're turning around and looking because the voice. Yeah.
I'm staring at
okay, top 2, top
books.
3. I know it's really hard, but if you could only take 2 or 3 books with you, and this would be it for your reading.
All right, so E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's been something that's been massive. I'm trying to find books because as I listen to podcasts, it seems like the same 15 books get recommended every time, right? Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, all important. I'm trying to be different here.
Yeah, be different.
So there's the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, though. Even though I've heard that come up a handful of times, it is a great book. And I took that basically in a nutshell. It's how to work on your business instead of being in your business. Mm-hmm. Instead of your company owning you, you owning your company, by understanding how to create systems, automation, and leverage. How to take a tedious process. For me, and one of the things I do in marketing for real estate is we send out direct mail. I am fully capable of licking, sticking, addressing, stamping envelopes and sending it out 40 hours per campaign, but that is mindless, like a monkey can do it. So it just teaches you how to outsource these tedious, the minutia of business to focus on the bigger plays. So that would be a great pickup for someone in any aspect of life. I mean, whether you're in startup or whether you've been running a company for 20 years, the E-Myth has been around for 30 years. I would suggest getting the E-Myth Revisited, which is the most updated version, and just the principles of how to, again, remove yourself from being in your business to being exterior working on it is huge. So even though I've heard that one a bunch, I still got to give it a shout out. Let's see here. The Little Black Book of Persuasion Skills. It teaches you NLP. I don't think I've ever heard that one recommended other than me. I'm a professional speaker, and NLP has enabled me to really master this career of being on stage and influencing others. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and it's just using persuasive language, not hypnotizing people, but using words and specific phrases that help people move to action, that help people get out of their own way. And so the Little Black Book of Persuasion Skills by an author. He's an Indian author, so I can Google it while I'm talking to you right now. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but it's on Amazon. You can download it right into your Kindle, and it's a great book as well. Let's see. Spin Selling. I'm looking at that one right now. I read that last year. I'm just going to throw that one out there. Spin Selling by Neil Rackham was a good one as well. Since a lot of what I do on stage is selling, that one was pretty good for me. Spin Selling and Selling at 90 degrees. So there's the 3.
All right, good. I'm adding I'm adding that Persuasion NLP book on my Amazon right now. I buy books like candy. I just, boom, it's done. It's already on the way.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So the author is Rintu, Rintubasu.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, perfect. And that book, it's like an actual manual. It's not just a book that talks about NLP. Like, it literally gives you exercises. It's like a handbook, literally, where each chapter teaches you a new skill, and then at the end of the chapter tells you to go and use it and practice it. So it's pretty cool. Again, use with responsibility. Don't go persuade people to do dumb things. But it's a great book.
All right. And this next question here is more of a scenario, and it'll deeply resonate with you. So it's this. It's imagine you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
60 seconds. All right. The first 30 seconds, my 20-year-old self was getting ready to go through the worst hell in the world for the next exactly 10 years.
Yeah.
So I would tell my 20-year-old self, get ready, hold on, lean on your faith, and just know that nothing happens by accident. Everything happens for a reason. Get through this season, and when you come out the other side, you'll be a better man for it. And I've tried to be as universally applicable as I could to anyone listening that didn't go through my specific circumstances. We all have a story, and just understand that nothing happens by accident. Everything happens for a reason. It's not that you can find the good in the moment, but looking back, a lot of times you can connect the dots and see why you went through the worst things imaginable, because now you're face to face with someone who's in the middle of going through it now, and having personally gone through, survived it, and experienced it, you can impact that other person's life in a way you otherwise never could. So I tell my 20-year-old self, don't try to find the answers in the moment. Just hold on, trust, have faith, and it will all make sense in the end. And the second 10 seconds, or the last 10 seconds I'd have left, I'd say, enjoy the moment. I am ambitious, and I'm always thinking about the second play. And one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever been given personally that I would want to give myself is enjoy the moment. I had aspirations of making 7 figures a year, of living in the community I live in, of literally the car I own right now was on my laptop screen. The exact car I own right now was on my laptop screen in high school because I said, someday I want to own this car. I like buying classics. And literally the actual one, not even just the same make, the car is now on my driveway. Like, talk about the law of attraction, right? I stared at it for 4 years and now it's on my driveway, or actually it's in my garage. The point is, I'm succeeding in what at one point was my wildest dreams, but now I'm setting new goals. And I have a habit of so focusing on the new goals, I forget to stop for a second and look around and say, hey, these were goals I set when I was 23, 24, and I'm living that life now and enjoying it. Where I am now, I'm setting new goals and just focusing on that and forgetting to stop for a second, smell the flowers, as they say, and say, whoa, like, this is pretty cool. So I'm being reminded more and more and more to stop and enjoy the moment while I'm here and while I'm in it, because these were the moments I wanted so badly, and to not forget to enjoy it because I'm so focusing on the next moment I'm going to create.
That hits me good. Like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about myself. I mean, I was living in my mom's basement just about 2 years ago. And right now I just told you, I was like, yeah, I'm in Mission Beach. Like, I'm just on the beach right now overlooking the ocean. And that is true, because I had these big goals, aspirations. I'm constantly on the grind, constantly hustling. And sometimes, I don't know, just as you were talking, I'm like, this was a goal of mine, to live on the beach. I've always wanted that. And yeah, that just kind of brings it to light. And I think for many people, especially listeners of this podcast, who are, I would consider more higher achievers, higher performing people, that's probably very true for a lot of them, where they have achieved their goals, but haven't taken a moment to step back and just, give themselves that recognition that they deserve.
A lot of people have a goal to start a podcast. When your first episode goes live, sit there for a second and think, I did it. I've accomplished this goal. I'm enjoying it, right? So just like, again, it's a constant reminder. Be ambitious. Don't just become complacent and say, oh, I'm here. Cool. I'm going to sit around and do nothing now. But, I forgot to enjoy the success I was having. And so somebody reminded me of that. And, I try to remind myself of that every day. And anyway, it's a good reminder, because then it makes it all worth it. If you're never enjoying the moment and always trying to strive for more and never acknowledging once you've hit certain thresholds of what you shot for originally, then it's almost not worth it. There's no reward. We say CAW, celebrate all wins. And, it's important that you do that in your own life.
Yeah, I like that. And just to wind down here, even if you have to summarize some of your main points, what would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
Back to the quote I opened with, you only got one shot at this. Make it freaking matter. I believe that good people that have more monetary success can make greater impacts. All I think is money is a magnifying glass. And if you have aspirations to do meaningful work, whatever that looks like, it doesn't have to be even necessarily philanthropy. It could just be how you care for your family. Whatever your goals are of the difference and the impact you want to make in your life, I always say, if money didn't matter anymore, would you be able to do that greater? And the universal response is yes. So I say, find a way, whether it be for me, investing, for you, whatever it is out there, to put yourself in the financial position, to align yourself with your purpose as it reveals itself to you, to be able to make a meaningful impact so that when your funeral comes, and that day is coming for all of us, people are literally fighting over the microphone to talk about the meaningful impact you made in their lives. No one will talk about my cars. No one will talk about my houses. No one will talk about my 7-figure years. But people will hopefully talk about, with the time I had here, the way I spent it in a way that mattered to them. And so I encourage people, don't get lost in the grind. Enjoy the moment while you're there, and be fighting for something worth fighting for, so that when your time is up, you spent it in a way that mattered.
Yeah, very powerful. And just such a powerful way to end the show here. And to really just, a lot of guys are listening to the show, and, in their drive on their way to work, and just giving everyone just that motivation they need to just keep going and keep pushing forward. And this, this has just been an incredible episode here. So just concluding here with the knowledge around, what's exciting you today? What's getting you out of bed in the morning, Cole? So many exciting things happening, but what's going on?
Yeah, so I'm hosting my own event called Thrive in October, where we were talking about Gary Vee, a previous episode of yours. He's a speaker there. Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank's coming out, and there's 20 just huge speakers that are coming. And for 3 days in Vegas, we're going to teach people how to make money and then how to make their money matter. Exactly what I was just closing with, saying, hey, go get rich, but not just for the sake of getting rich. Once you have this influence, make your money matter. Start a company that makes a difference, or actually write checks to charities that are making a difference, or actually live a life of influence. And anyway, whatever it is to you, and we've got all that covered. But what's exciting me right now is we're 6 weeks away from that.
Yeah.
And so it's coming down to the grindstone. But it's going to be exciting to have a room of hundreds of people being taught how to make millions of dollars, and then taught how to leverage their money in a way that actually makes a meaningful impact. And so all day, every day, I'm talking to my speakers or attendees about that. And it's going to be cool to, what you and I have been discussing this last 45 minutes, in real life, actually showing people how to do it. That's what gets me excited. I can't wait to attend. I'm going to be like the Mark Cuban in the audience with the attendees. Like, even though it's my event and I'm speaking there, I'm going to be sitting right in the middle of it all, because I can't wait to hear what these speakers have to say about this subject.
Yeah, I've been eyeing the event myself. So guys listening, thrivelasvegas.com, or simply just Google Thrive Las Vegas, pops right up. And also don't forget to check out colehatter.com, and that's with 2 T's, colehatter.com. And Cole, thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time out of your day. You got so much going on just to drop these knowledge bombs here with my community. It's been an incredible way for me just to even start the late morning here.
Yeah, no worries, dude. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure, and keep up this message, man. This is an important conversation that you're having with your various guests for people to hear, dude. So good work, bro.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and 1 million downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we've just started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a review in iTunes. It really helps to grow the podcast. Guys, 2015 is the official year of living with purpose, where every day you do only the things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. Check out kfmfree.com to get free tools I've created to help you crush life. Again, that's kfmfree.com. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and I'll see you in the next episode.